Hello, hello, my big brains. I have a very interesting conversation that I want to have with you. I'm tagging everyone who's completed their Find Their Next and everyone who is a community builder because you may be wondering, let me pull this to the side, where's Joe? Right? I've kind of disappeared. And I want to walk through some of the challenges I've navigated in my community leadership journey, some of the challenges I'm having with entrepreneurship, but even wider than that, like some of the challenges I'm having building the life I desire, living where I want, loving what I do, and being paid well for it, and some different surprises and shifts in strategy that have kind of got me to where I'm at. So we're going to go through this, and I think it's going to be helpful for you. This is going to be a deeper dive on my world, but I'm hoping that I communicate in a way with lots of praxis where you can put things into praxis as we go. So first of all, a little bit of context on life in school because some of you don't know my full story, and I'll summarize my Find My Next in like 42 seconds. I worked for Johnson & Johnson for a decade, progressing surgical robotics. This led our family on a journey of 12 relocations in 1 year to get to Japan. And then the rug was kind of pulled out from under me. My job was impacted. And while we were offered a return path to the US, we said no, went all in on entrepreneurship in Tokyo to continue life in Japan, and failed at that and hit zero. This led to a crazy series of events that relocated us to Chicago, where we're now living in a four-generation home with my grandfather, my grandmother, and my father-in-law, as well as our four children. We've hit zero twice in Chicago, and I've gone all in on Skool two or three times until I finally found like a minimally viable product, which is called an MVP, where people are starting to join the community, they're bringing friends, and they're naturally setting into the paid community. So this has been incredible. And for me, I'm living across being a full-time stay-at-home father, a full-time caretaker for my grandfather, and a full-time moonlight entrepreneur building this community and the gaps. So time management is critical. But in parallel, I have been applying to full-time leadership roles within Johnson & Johnson and other medtech companies that are located in Chicago. And there's been conversations that have progressed, started, and stopped. There was a job that seemed incredibly promising. They then turned it into a consultant bid. They then said, no, we don't have budget for this, never mind, after stringing that along for 5 months. So there's been a ton of hills and valleys. And we've had amazing, like, upswings in this group as well. I think I'm up to 7 members in the paid community as well. So things are progressing well. So why do I share all this? So this is all context, right? Well, I want to talk about some of my initial goals, some of my master plan that you don't know around how I've been operating on Skool in full transparency. And we'll start with this idea of Lord of the Loom, which has been such a charming title. Lord of the Loom. And the brackets I'll put around this is what I would call KPI. This comes from someone that you should read their book called Daniel Priestley, Key Person of Influence. Now, some people hear influencers and they're like, yuck, okay? But the reality is, if you want to create an audience, if you want to provide value across a digital context, you do need to have some level of niche where people connect and attract to you and that they can then hear about your services and pay. And when I started on Skool, I had no influence here. I had done content creation for 5 years. I built an audience of around 40,000 folks. And I struggled with conversion of that audience into a community because my community sucked. In transparency, like, here, let's pull up our community. This, friends, I see I'm at 4 minutes. I'm going to take my time with this one. I'm going to deep dive because I think I'm also in a season of needing to process. So if this is valuable for you, grab a cup of tea and let's go deep. If you're busy, head along. But I was like, in my head, I was like, this is a 5 minute update. And as I started, I was like, this is not a 5 minute update. This is like value. So let's jump into it. So if we go back in time to our community, I go to my settings and I go to our metrics. When I first started out here, this was welcome to one-on-one with the pretentious engineer was what this group was originally called. And then around here-ish, it became the Big Brain Club, and we started focusing on being inclusive of folks with different brains. But here I was just like posting TikTok videos that I thought were helpful, and nobody was interconnecting, nobody was getting value, nobody was growing. The Find Your Next journey did not exist at all. That it became an add-on from like a 10-day journey on how to quit your job. Like this community has evolved and failed so many times to get to where we are. But around here, something amazing happened where we started the big brain games and people started bringing friends, and different key people of interest within the Skool platform joined this group, and then people started ascending into paid, and it got crazy where I was like, oh shoot, there's something here. This is worth pushing. And this was where I was like, actually, I'm all in on Skool and not all in on getting a job. That's the first learning. This is also where I started firing off looms like crazy. From March, early March until May, I've done 3,000 Loom video messages and DMs across this community, other communities, schoolers. And what I learned is I was able to push my own content. Like if I made a post and did Loom responses, it kept putting it back to the top. So I started to figure out like how to go viral in this platform is completely different than anywhere else. And then people started connecting with me. I started getting invited onto podcasts. People started joining the community. Word of mouth referral started going. Anyway, this was fantastic. But around mid-May, we'll say early mid-May, things got a bit out of control for me from a notification perspective, which is a beautiful and good problem to have. And I've tried to be transparent with it. But I'm going to sound like Tony Stark for a minute. No, it's Howard Stark. This is super nerdy. This is from Iron Man 2 when Tony's arc reactor is poisoning him and he has to invent a new element, and then he like sees a videotape of his father that talks to him. This is like way more lore than you need. And he's like, Tony, like you've always been my greatest gift or whatever, my greatest innovation. He's like, but I'm limited by the technology of my time. And for those of you who don't know my Loom workflow, I do predominantly mobile on late night walks. And every 5 to 15 times that I click a notification, I scroll to the bottom. I work from the bottom up because I want to make sure that I'm doing oldest first. I'm doing it sequentially. My app will fail because I'm running Loom, and it'll bug out and die. And then I have to go and scroll past. At this point, I'm on, I think, 12 full pages of notifications I scroll past just to get to like the one that I missed. Because for me, there's a human behind every comment. This is something that I have always lived by on TikTok, YouTube, now on Skool, is to be engaging and to be present. But you get to a point when something goes viral where it's just impossible. And I was trying to figure out how to keep growing to the bottom to follow up on people that I care about, how to filter by communities. And it became too much in a really good way because I became a key person of influence in these spaces, and people are engaging me. They're tagging me in other people's communities, other stuff that's going on. But what I realized, if we go back to the analytics, and then we'll get to the DMs as well, how I'm navigating that. I started maybe around here. There started to be these spotty days, like 54 activities, 52 activities, where I was so lost trying to respond to things in other communities that I couldn't even respond in my own communities. And in parallel to that, I made a post about hitting 2,000 videos on YouTube, and I'd actually paused all content creation for a month and a half here, and then had just started turning it back on lightly with short form content. And the engagement I got around that spoke to me of like, I need to continue to do content creation. I need to continue to build that craft because there's something there as well. So that plus Loom, like, where do I put my effort? But what I realized is like I wasn't present within my own community, and I started posting a lot, but then not responding to replies. So a decision I made maybe 2 weeks ago, which I haven't really followed through on, was to limit my posting as minimum as possible, and to make the community looks exactly how I want it right now, of one high value post per Sunday with deep engagement, a video update within the community, a high value podcast. So this is with Navreet if you haven't seen it. And then I want the rest of it to not be my face, but to be all of you, as much as possible, for people to be updating their own Find Your Next, or for me to engaging folks there. So what I started doing as an experiment last week is, instead of looking at notifications at all, I will literally go to the page and I will click on anywhere where there's a new comment and just burn through comments on a given post and kind of work what's in front of me here and just let this keep growing because it's grown past what I can engage. So that was where I saw, we're going to get to some punchlines on things that are shifting and why this matters. So that was around here. So 215 day activities, 192 activities. And this all matters because our discovery ranking's looking really good. We're under 250 now. We started at 520, so we're holding steady. And another thing that I did in relation to this is I redid the whole classroom again based on some learnings and feedback from everybody. So I refined this this newsletter to be super succinct. I re-recorded this as well. And then at the end of this video, there's a basically master plan video that walks through exactly what we're doing here, as well as sharing, like, if I bet on ourselves, what that looked like I refreshed it a bit. And the reason I went through all this is I noticed that we have really high conversion, around 25 to 30% into the community through word of mouth referrals or through discovery as well. The page just converts. And I don't want to convert 100%. I want to convert a subset because I want people here that are actually here for the journey. And then I found a decent amount of those people will naturally start to do the Find Your Next assessment from the welcome video and from me sending a personalized Loom saying, hey. But then what I found is when they went through the assessment, it was a super low conversion towards indicating I'm interested in waiting for the Big Brain Club Pro. And that was what I focused on, is what if I could provide the right information earlier for people to say, oh, I would love to be a part of that. Let me join the wait list. And then I'll just open it once a month for people to get in. So this video I embedded in the first post for people to watch. But then I also changed Find Your Next context. Instead of walking through, here's a couple Find Your Next posts, bringing people straight into the master plan so they know exactly what's going on in the Big Brain Club Lite, Pro, or if they eventually go one-on-one with me for consulting. And then I redid the Find Your Next module to get it even tighter. It's only 11 minutes instead of 22 minutes. And I pulled the video of like needing to watch a video and pause and watch the other video elsewhere. So I spent a ton of time to redo it again. And the reason I share all this is because as soon as I changed it, someone went through the whole journey and was like, yes, I want to join Pro. And I was like, holy crap, we figured it out. So I've been ignoring all of you because I'm trying to figure out how to make this thing run super smooth and super clean and provide maximum value for people to get to a point where they want to be on a call with me. And that's where I can go deeper with all of you in the community. So that's the first thing that I've learned. Let me see. I'm like totally off the rails. Let me go back to my sheet. Okay, so where's my pen? So initial goal was to create Lord of the Loom, to become a key person of influence, to drive traffic, and to get to the point where I could experiment and build an MVP that works, where people can attract to this, we'll call this community a product, get value from it, get plugged in, interconnect with one another and engage, and then make a decision, yes, I would want to move up to your paid offer or not, with light touch engagement from me. And that light touch is me sending it a 30-second, hey, welcome to the community. I just saw you joined. This is what it's all about. Let me know what kind of brain you are. And then them go through the journey. And the second light touch is, hey, let me do this deep dive video to kind of go through your Find Your Next, which I have been negating because I've been rebuilding this. I have a backlog of like 7 or 8 of those. So pain points here was just bandwidth. And the reason I share this is a beautiful pain point to have, because from 0 to, I would say, 120 members, this was okay. From 120 to 150 plus, because we're just about to cross 150, this structure of me looming everyone all the time hasn't worked. I'm also scrolling through, and if there's like 5 people that say the same thing, I do one loom and tag them all as well. But the touch points are becoming harder and harder because you have to just engage them in the paid community is the situation I wanted. So when we're thinking about going from 150 to maybe, let's say, 800, this engagement will again shift because my notifications are just going to do that. And I desire to be fully present, but I also have to build systems and processes that scale. That's the first thing. So areas where I found highest leverage, and you can experiment, you can leverage these in your own context. The first one is that first Loom message is still what I would say something I have to continue to do because I think it's what makes the community warm, as well as you all bringing in word of mouth referrals. First Loom, and then I'm going to say second deep Loom is desired. But necessarily looming or necessarily like engaging all notifications is becoming out of scope for me right now because I don't have cash flow yet to hire a team to do more of the overhead yet. Other highest leverage that I'm finding is Sunday Sips. And the reason I say Sunday Sips is it gives me one high value post per week with some meat on it. It helps me also grow and curate these writings, the weekly update video that I include in there. Like it's 20 hours of work. It's a lot of time that I put into Sunday Sips. But the reason it's so important, I have an email list of 100 plus from Skool. And then because I just duplicated it onto LinkedIn, I have 100 plus on LinkedIn as well. So this is giving me 52 touch points, one to many per year. So this is becoming an area of high focus, and a cascade from this is the Friday minivan, big brain ideas. These are like 15 minutes of content, which I can edit in about 3 hours. And then the podcast. And that's about a 3-hour commitment. And then I'm targeting 7 shorts. And that's end to end, probably 2 hours. Which gives me the rest of my time. The Sunday Sips is like 20 total. Yeah, it gives, and this is per week, right? So that's already 25 hours a week. Plus the Loom messages are light. And the thing that I'm going to have to shift towards, which we're going to get to, is moonlighting the Big Brain Club. Because here comes more happy updates, Brain Club. And then directing. Whoa. Innovation. This is so helpful for me, by the way. Thank you for spending the time to watch me think out loud. Directing innovation. And this is either going to be at Mid-Mark, Edwards. These are things you don't know probably. Or J&J. I have feelings about this. So, friends, I have moonlighting basically means this is together all of this stack if I ignore my notifications and do things the way that I'm doing. This is about 25 to 30 hours per week. And then this right here will probably be, if I'm good at it, 35 to 60 on the bad weeks, hours per week. And then ... dad plus fitness. Oh, and of course marriage. Weekend. So right now there's going to be this shift where my engagement's going to have to pull out a free and run it like a system, pull out a Lite a little bit and run it like a system, and then go deep with the people that move up to pro, because I'm focusing on, this is all what I would call, I don't have room, outbound. And this is what I'm going to say is inbound. Like when someone's in the community, I want them to feel a touch point so that they can make a decision. This is also slightly inbound because when they're in the community, they see these Sunday Sips and it has an update from like the latest guest speaker or things like that. It helps them understand like what's it like at another level. But then the rest of this is outbound in addition to the word of mouth referrals, because I realized that the word of mouth referrals are fantastic for community leaders, bringing in more community leaders, and friends bringing in friends. But it's not necessarily attracting some of the left brain people, the global leaders, the entrepreneurs. Well, entrepreneurs are whole brain people, the global leaders, as well as the engineers, which my LinkedIn is killing it right now. And I'm trying to have a little bit of balance. Eventually I can even possibly pull back on content creation once I have an even spread of folks in the Big Brain Club. So that's critical path. And my next is a little bit crazy right now. So I made a post. I'm going to show you this post. Let me pull it up on LinkedIn that has caused some interesting shifts. Let's see. And it was one of those like late night posts where you think about it, you doubt it 15 times. It's like if you've seen Jerry Maguire, like a manifesto kind of post, and then you post it anyway and see what happens. And incredible things happen. So this is your hint to do content creation. You don't always get this. This is when things work out very well. So also my notifications are starting to increase on LinkedIn, which was a little bit cold. So I changed my profile to open to work because I had it off for a season because from a brand perspective, it doesn't always look good. We could go deep on that in the future. But I made this post, which I don't swear online. But as I sat in bed, this is the only way I could think about. So I'm just going to read it to you and then we're going to talk about what happened. So for some reason, making this post embarrasses me, but fuck it, someone needs to hear it. This is probably the best written hook I have ever done. And it's incredibly honest. Oh, 1 second. We have a sad kid. All right. I'm back. All right. So for some reason, making this post embarrasses me, but fuck it. Someone needs to hear it. In the past 48 hours, I've had 2 interviews, one at Amazon, third shift, loading packages into trucks, which is true, and one at Chipotle, second shift, rolling burritos at Mundelein. And these 2 were to get cash flow because we've hemorrhaged cash for the last 11 months without a paycheck. We've zeroed out our 401k, which we'll get to that. In parallel, I've applied to senior director of R&D engineering at Edwards Life Sciences, and I have a strong point of contact with that. And a technical sales manager, MedTech Digital at Johnson & Johnson, because I also had really good connections with that role. And while I'm incredibly excited about the MedTech global leadership opportunities, I'm equally excited about getting some cash flow and seeing what I can learn at Chipotle and Amazon on the ground floor. And this is the area where like I started to just land on affirmation from embarrassment. I'm proud of the fact that I haven't had a paycheck for the last 11 months post J&J, exit to continue life in Japan. I'm proud of the fact that I've been more present as a stay-at-home father of 4 and a caretaker for my grandfather who's battling kidney failure in Chicago than at any other point in my life or career. I'm proud of the fact that I'm finding second and third shift opportunities to open up our finances while supporting my wife's career because she's on first shift after 8 years of stay-at-home mom life. I'm proud of the fact that over 11 months, I've toiled relentlessly as an entrepreneur, failed multiple times, hit zero in Japan, relocated to Chicago on our own dime in 20 days, which is crazy for anyone who's moved internationally, zeroed our 401k, discovered my product market fit, and realize the timelines necessary to scale to financial success. Because I do think this community, we're on the rise, but I think the lead times are still challenging. I've realized I don't want to push people in this group. It just takes time to grow something that thrives. So yes, I'm excited about $22 an hour on Amazon, $18 an hour at Chipotle, while moonlighting my entrepreneurial ventures and serving others, even as I wait for the upper 100 to 20K medtech opportunities to roll in next. And as I continue to take steps towards building the life I desire, living where I want, loving what I do, being paid well for it, which is all on brand, there will always be adjustments and shifts and strategies. And that's what I want to talk with you next about shifts and adjustments that came from this post. Life is messy and unfolds in beautiful, unexpected ways. I dedicated a decade of my life progressing surgical robotics at J&J and traveled the world serving top-tier surgeons. This is to establish credibility. And rolling a delicious burrito and loading packages in trucks could never take that experience away. This was my biggest fear of making a post like this, or even saying like, I work at Chipotle after I've climbed. Now I work at Chipotle. Like there's a perception that I wanted to challenge that's very present on LinkedIn and within myself, I think. So if you ever feel a pressure to build a photoshopped, perfectly polished personal brand on LinkedIn, I want to give you permission to be a real human. Honesty and humility go a long way on this platform. Then here's the tags. Like, P.S. If you're an executive leader at these institutions, feel free to drop by Chipotle and Mundelein. I'm happy to serve you the best burrito of your life and explore global medtech innovation strategies as well. So anyway, I fought with this post like crazy on whether or not I would do it. This went out at midnight. Within 8 hours, I had a call from a chief operation officer that had mentored me at J&J before he went off to Edwards, which they make like heart valves. And then he ended up at this company called Midmark. And he's like, I'm looking for a director of front end. It was a very serious hour and a half conversation. The problem of building the life you desire is it's in Cincinnati, which we lived at for a season, but we've moved 15 times in 3 years. So it's an area where that's like the right job, the right level, the right comp, medical benefits, wrong place. So that's hard and crazy. Those conversations will be progressing in the coming weeks. And then in parallel to that, I heard from the VP of innovation at Edwards, who was also my mentor when I was doing innovation from Japan. And concerning this role and other things, he's like, we need to set up a call to talk, which is huge because I sent this to him as well. And then I had someone on the inside from J&J forward along a lot of the work that I had done to progress innovation from Japan to key points of contact in the sales org. This one's 100% remote. This one would be based in Chicago as well, as far as I know. So we're running into some strange timing and lead times issues where there's two pathways of potentially having life in Chicago continue, either through this role, which would definitely be a major dock in pay compared to the director or the senior director role. This role, which will probably have lead time issues, like if there's corporate involved with this, they won't be able to make a decision fast enough. Or there's the role in Cincinnati where there's going to be the FOMO of like, I have to decide, am I moving my family before the school year? Or we've looked at split living, which is also devastating to consider, of living in Chicago to support grandpa and for my son particularly to have stability in schooling because he's only been in that school for 7 months, and for me to commute 5 hours every other weekend to be with them, which is not an impossibility, but for a year or 2 year contract, that's very difficult to consider as well. And we're like looking at the cost of it. So anyway, this post lit up. Like I had 2,500 engagements. A lot of my network like lit up about it. Lots of comments I shared what the crazy double schedule looks like. This is my wife's shift. This would be Amazon at 1:30 a.m. and then stacking on Chipotle. This would be a nice 16-hour day with a little bit of sleep in the middle. So part of it is like I genuinely would do this and build in the gaps and move our office hours to this section and then stay at home with my kids. But it also opened up a lot of interesting doors for my prior network and people forwarding and reposting it as well. So I share all this because, and this is where it gets to you and me processing all this. Like my next is super messy because I'm going to have to choose between likely imperfect choices, right? We're going to have this. I'm solving my own problems as I verbally podcast with all of you. Direct innovation, mid-mark, Cincy. I perceive, and life is unpredictable, that I will have an offer by mid to end June, like 2 to 4 weeks potentially, because the top decision makers are 100% aligned on me for the role. This has like the highest probability of success of getting a job in the wrong spot. All right. And then our middle ground here is J&J. Again, this is all the processing. And I hope this is helpful for you as you're all trying to find your next, as you're dabbling between entrepreneurship potentially and a day job and things like that to provide for your family. J&J, sales, manager, remote is the big thing here. J&J does remote well. This company is a little bit more aged. They don't do remote. So it's going to be a lot harder to push that culture. Remote, I'm anticipating the pay is lower. Not guaranteed though. I need an offer. And the hard part for this, like this is a check for like possibly getting the decision quickly because the job posting ended last week. J&J is hard for me. Like I gave so much of my life to J&J and organizational constraints hit me, and there's still deep processing I have to do to boomerang back in. A ton of people do it. I loved that company and I try to have an internal locus of control, but for a season it ruined my life. But this is different people within the org at a different space, and it's still progressing global healing. And I can swallow pride and serve my family, and this allows Chicago. And the main goal I think we have at this point is how do we move out? Like, and where do we go to? And how do we have the cash flow to do that when we're so zeroed and negative zero when you look at liabilities? And then the last one we have is Edwards. This is actually like the best role, senior director. It's 40 minutes away. But I anticipate, and I'm working through unknown unknowns, that there's a lot more politics dash risks of me not getting the role and waiting for it could cause me to miss this role. So, navigating uncertainty, building the community in parallel, trying to show up for these conversations and more. And I'm a key advocate of getting jobs through connection to break around the just apply cold and hit a wall and the series of wait. Like, we need something to move now-ish in our life. So anyway, this is everything I'm navigating with building the life that I desire. I don't know what it looks like, but I am thinking about how do I make the Big Brain Club Lite scalable so I could run it myself initially, get cash flow through a day job, and then I could start to, offload aspects of content creation, which is hard to let go of. I will still talk, let people do the edits, and hand off aspects of community building to different partners, virtual admin. Like, I will scale the community that way so I can still be present and provide value. But yeah, thank you all for being part of my journey. This is 31 minutes. You do not by any means have to do updates like this on your Find Your Next. I found this incredibly helpful and edifying for me. It's probably the best 30 minutes I've spent today, and I wasn't sure if I was going to do this or not. So I hope you enjoy it. If you have any feedback, critique, let me know. And per my new engagement strategy, I will scroll to the bottom of my Find Your Next periodically and just fire through as many comments as I can until Skool crashes. And then I won't check my notifications because I'm savage. So anyway, I love and hate this season. It was so hard when it happened with TikTok because I lost my mouse. All right, here's some confetti for the everything and all the feels. And hopefully I can feed my family and get them some medical and provide incredible value at the Big Brain Club. And I'm excited to see what kind of life you all build where you can live where you want, love what you do, and be paid well for it. Thanks for being part of this grand experiment. I'm doing everything I can to serve you and keep changing the world.